listening to the Hollywood Boulevard podcast.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Hollywood Boulevard Podcast. I'm one of the co-hosts, Joe Turek here, and I'm here with Jonathan A. Moody. How you doing, Jonathan?
I am doing fantastic. How are you, Joe?
I couldn't be better. Couldn't be better, especially after watching what we watched for this one. This is a fun one. Not that the other ones aren't fun, but this one was this. They all have little places in all for each of us individually and stuff like that. So it's always good and stuff like that. So. Also joined with by Alfred. Alfred, how you doing today?
Okay, thanks. Okay, there's some beautiful weather here
But
Beautiful.
where are you?
in Virginia.
No,
Oh, I had
I don't know if beautiful weather really is the word, but all right.
Was that a sarcastic "beautiful weather" comment?
It was.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely wasn't beautiful weather here in Williamsburg. It's pretty shitty, but
Well, what can you expect? Well, the time of year that we're recording this and stuff like that, it's
I
going to
know.
it comes to be expected. So,
I
so
told people January to March is like my least favorite months, and they spell out my initials. Nope, they don't. I was thinking for some there's J there, but no, there's J, and I thought there was an A, but no,
so
there's
so
no J. J A M would be my initials. Damn it! Never mind me.
I was like, is there something different here that I'm just not that I'm
I
missing or
know.
something? So,
Nope.
well, this one this episode we're going to discuss the 1985 comedy classic Weird Science. Um, to me, this was my pick, and I just my love of the '80s stuff, and this is right in the wheelhouse for me. I was a few years younger than the characters in this, but nevertheless, it still hits pretty solidly into where I am in life and stuff like that. Yeah. So to start out with, uh, I imagine I'll start with Alfred. Alfred, when did you see it first?
Um, Back in, I think it was, remember it came out on HBO. I did not
Was
see
this
this one
another
in the
one?
theater.
Was this one of your HBO repetition ones like Excalibur and other ones like we've talked about?
Yes. I could
So
keep watching and watching it.
yeah, so you never saw this in the theater?
I may have seen it in a re-release one year, when they had the summer movies, but I can't remember.
Hmm. So this was on repetition on HBO, and that would
Yeah.
make sense. Uh,
Yeah.
all
Oh, this
right.
is one of the least watched ones of though. I used to see Breakfast Club and 16 Candles more than this. So it's nice to have this one um to go back to. And I really like this one a lot now. It's not that I didn't like it then, I was just fascinated by everything, but it just seemed like it wasn't on as much as the others. But every
Yeah,
time I watch this, it's like it seems like it's a longer movie, but it's like all of a sudden they're back at the house and the movie's halfway over.
I know,
Whoa.
right? It is a pretty quick watch, and a lot. I mean, a lot of the John Hughes films and stuff like that around that time period were, but this one was actually a little bit different because it played more on the comedy than some of the teen angst and stuff like that. But it had that in there as well, which we'll get into. Um, so, uh, Jonathan, when was the first time you saw it?
Probably on VHS at some point. I don't. There wasn't, or maybe it was on cable. But
Uh-huh.
I actually, interestingly enough, I used to watch the TV show with Vanessa Angel more
Mhm.
than watching this particular movie because I thought the TV show was so much fun.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned the TV show because one of the other ones that I brought to the Hollywood Boulevard here was Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which had a TV show. So it's like yeah, so it's a couple of these that had
So
little
did Ferris
spin-offs and stuff.
Bueller.
Yeah, and
I think the
and
only ones that didn't are like Pretty in Pink and 16 Candles, which I don't know if you could do TV shows of those technically.
yeah, 16 Candles is kind of a finite. They could expand on the universe, I guess. I mean, well, I guess that's what all these really are. But I mean, because they all seem to overlap with Shermer High and stuff like that. Uh, so so
Or it could have
um
been one
uh,
of those 80s movies where they have the title and it's like they just use the title and everything else has nothing to do with it.
I know, right?
Well,
Um,
it was the title. I did not realize until the other day that the title actually came from a magazine, or whatever,
Yeah,
a comic.
wasn't like a comics in like the 50s or 60s or something like that. It
Yeah, it
was
was
a
like a pulp comic, from the 50s and 60s. Yeah,
There
uh,
wasn't
yeah. So
Frankenstein at the beginning.
from the guy who did like Tales from the Crypt.
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't recall seeing this in the theater, but I do remember seeing it on pay-per-view when it was like one of the original pay-per-views that I remember seeing. But that's the first time I saw it. Pay-per-view was a lot different than it is now, 'cause now you can rent anything and stream it within periods of time and stuff like that. But yeah, back then it was like they played the same movie for like 24 hours straight, and it's like you had to like lock it in. And this, so I remember seeing this on pay-per-view for the first time, and then VHS and HBO, to Alfred's point. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, when I saw it, I was like I was 13 years old, so like a few years younger than these characters, because they're I guess 16, 17 area. Um, uh, they allude to the fact that he doesn't even have his learner's permit or stuff like that. So I think they're in that 15 to 16 maybe area, which is kind of, well, I'm sure we'll get into this too. There are some creep elements to their age and who they're messing with, and or who's you know.
I told that to a friend of mine who she really loves this movie,
Mhm.
and we were watching it, and I said, interesting fact. Elin Mitchell was only 15 years old when he played that role, and blah blah blah. And then she goes, "What? I never knew that." And then she was like, "I can't watch this anymore." And like and I was like, "Oh my God, I didn't mean to like ruin your childhood movie." Well, few years later,
Mhm.
I mentioned that again to her, that thing, and she said, "Oh, it's okay. I like it again." So
Oh,
and even since like when I was watching it, I text messaged her and said I was watching this, and she still loves it. So it's my friend Elena.
yeah. Well, this one, I think there's like about 8 years difference between them, between him and Kelly LeBrock. I mean, the characters are about that much time. Uh, so yeah, there's a different time that PC wise they couldn't do that today's time and
No.
get away with it.
I
But
mean,
that
they
that
wouldn't need to. I mean, you can find people that are 18 that look like they're 12, or whatever. So
mhm.
you don't need to cast a 15-year-old to play a 15-year-old, you
I
know?
know, right? But
Back then it was all like the people in their 20s, I think, and then they kind of just. I think when they did one Kids that came out, I think that was the first one with people really their age. Or no,
Hmm.
it was Apple Pie, American Pie, I think.
yeah,
Well, no, no. Well, kids, they were actually the age that they were, being.
Oh,
So that movie is really, really creepy, and that
yeah.
kind of thing. Paul likes that movie a lot. I do. I mean, I own it, but I don't necessarily think I don't watch it all the time because it just
Yeah, I
kind
was
of
like, what am I
just makes me
watching?
feel awkward.
Yeah, I just got.
yeah. I think I had that on DVD as well. It's yeah.
Mm.
That's a hard film. This they kind of play it innocent, so it's like, and to a
But she
degree,
like
I guess. But
kisses him, and
yeah,
like that's the thing I think, because like the shower scene, you can tell that they're like they're really not together most of the time.
yeah.
It's just them two, or it's her, it's them two, it's her. So I'm pretty sure there.
Or
But
she had
then
a
when
or
she
she might have had
leaves,
a bathing suit on or something like
yeah,
that too, or something.
underneath anyway.
Yeah,
So you don't really see that stuff. Like you don't really, like it's probably done because I mean they still had to obey laws, and stuff. But when she kisses him, I'm like, ugh,
yeah.
still to this day, like I'm just like that kid's 15, you're like 27. The heck is going on?
Well, she wasn't that. I think she was still. I mean, still there was a much difference, but I think she was like 23 or something like that when she made this. So that's still what, 7, 8 years or so. So, and it's a difference between an adult and a minor. So there's there is
Yeah.
significant there is. But I mean, the '80s were different times. So I mean, we can get all into all that stuff. And I mean, the John Hughes film that really goes into all that is 16 Candles, which was his first one. I mean, that's got a lot of PC related problems if you really want to get into it. But with this one, I took it that she sort of, the kisses were creepy, but she had sort of a protective. She wanted to help them get their own sort of.
Right.
She
She wanted to teach them, in a
yeah,
way.
teach them how to get stuff. I mean, there's a level of disbelief that you obviously have to throw into play when you watch this, because the idea. I mean, it's basically the general idea of the story. Without, I mean, obviously this movie's so old, spoiling's not really that big of a deal. But it's basically like Frankenstein, and there's elements of like Dr. Seuss Cat in the Hat or something like that in it, with stuff going on in the house and getting fixed up and repaired and everything. But Frankenstein's probably the main genesis of it. And they were even watching that at the beginning. I think it was Frankenstein at the beginning.
He's
So
alive.
yeah. Well, and I saw the deleted scenes. I haven't watched the deleted scenes on the new 4K version yet, but it might be the same scene. But I watched one on YouTube to where it had them talking more on the movie, and they were watching the movie a little bit more. So it just didn't dive right into them doing it, because in this one, it's like 5 minutes in, they're in the computer,
Yeah.
making her. But the deleted scene actually had them talking while they were watching the movies. It was almost like they were bantering about movies, and it was kind of cool. But I could see why they cut it out, but also I could see that they could have left it in, because it might have made it a little bit tighter. But
Well, did you watch the extended cut or the theatrical cut?
all I've seen is the theatrical cut, because I just got this copy. So the extended scene might be the exact same scenes that
So I'm not sure what I think the only things that were added that I could tell for sure, because I don't know how much longer it was, but there's a scene where a bunch of these weird like motorbike guys, not motorcycles, not the biker guys, but these like geeky guys come to the
I
house.
and that was another scene that showed on the YouTube thing that I saw. But those, and I read that those were they were the quote unquote the weenies, and they show them once in one of the scenes earlier. And one of the guys in that group is the same one that was in 16 Candles with John Cusack in the scene with them. So I think that was there is a lot more in that they just sort of cut them out almost.
Right.
But
It
yeah, I
was not
remember.
a good scene. I mean, and I honestly it slowed the movie down a
Yeah.
little bit, and I didn't think it was that funny. Like I can understand them saying, "Thank God it was not called the director's cut," because I don't think John Hughes would have approved that. Like he cut that out for a reason, you know?
Yeah, that scene definitely cut was a good thing. The stuff at the beginning where it shows them talking about movies and talking about building a girl, it's a little bit more elaborate than the quick setup in the film here. Um, uh, I mean, it's just when you see a movie that you like so much and see an extra scenes, it's always fun to see them. But the first one, the first scene they could have had that in there and it would have been fine. But the scene where you're talking about with the nerds, yeah, definitely, I think cutting that out was probably a wise call, because it didn't add to anything with the main characters or anything really for that matter. It was just there for the comedic element, and it kind of fell flat, to be honest. That scene.
Well, there was the beginning scene, the opening scene in the movie. I'm not sure because I watched
Oh,
the extended cut, but I loved the fact that they actually told you the whole story before you actually watched the movie. I never noticed it before, but
mhm.
like rewatching it, he's all of a sudden saying, "We should shower with the girls. We should have this party. We should do all these things," and then later that happens and you're when you're watching it I always forget or
Yeah,
whatever and stuff
yeah.
about that.
Yeah, so yeah, that scene, and that scene's classic in the comedy element of it in itself. But yeah, it does tell the whole story. It introduces them two. It introduces the two girls. It introduces the two adversaries with Rustler and Downey Jr. So it's like, and Downey Jr. gives a face when they say those two girls, and his face is like, it's just shock, and it's very funny because it shows that, I mean, obviously they get de-shorted, if you will, taking the
Yeah,
shorts off, but
the
yeah, it does
pants.
tell the whole. Yeah, depants. There you go. It does tell the whole story, kind of in a nutshell, of not bringing the girl, Kelly LeBrock's character into play, but
Right, I didn't know
it,
that was
it's
gonna happen, but
yeah, but it basically tells the arc of what Wyatt and Gary's the movie is.
yep.
So, but it's done in a way that works. Um, uh, so I I can't even say how many times I've seen this movie over the years because I can quote a lot of it. Um, uh, One of my friends, a good friend, John Regan. This is his favorite of the of the John Hughes types films, and
I think
I can
Breakfast
see
Club
what.
is my favorite, you know.
Mhm.
I don't know, for some reason I dig that more, you know, but
Yeah.
which is funny because I don't usually like movies that take place in mainly one location. And
Mhm.
that, I mean, I think I give it a break because it's a whole school, you know,
Yeah.
and everything. And it's
Yeah.
not just the, if it were literally just the detention center, I think I would have, detention room, I would have been, kind of bored. But,
Yeah.
you know,
I think mine goes up and down on which one's my favorite. Bueller's probably, I think he wrote that, but he didn't. Did he direct that? I can't
I
remember
think
if he
he
directed
directed
that.
it too. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know there was a few of them that he wrote, but he didn't direct. But
Home Alone.
uh, yeah, I know, right? Uh, but each one of these has their own little angle and stuff like that really make them unique on their own. I mean, there's like four or five of them that could go between. But the interesting thing about Breakfast Club is that John Hughes really didn't want. He was wanting to make that, and he didn't really want to make Weird Science. Weird Science was sort of the uh, he had to make this so he could make the other one. And
Hmm.
Breakfast Club was his, I think, is more of his passion project. But that said, he wrote the script I think in 2 days. I was reading, and
Hmm.
uh, I mean that's some efficiency there.
I was trying to think of like how did he split it up? Did he do like because it's like what, and I want to say it's a half it's an hour, so let's say it's about 50, no, 100 page script, right?
Mhm.
That's about right. So say it's about 100 page script. Does he do like 50 and was it 50 and 50? Does he do 45, and you know what I mean? Like how many pages does he write per day? I don't know. There's no he's never answered that question. Nobody, I think nobody's ever asked him that, and I'm sad that he's dead, so I can't get that that answer
Yeah,
from him. That's the question I'd ask, you know.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm, this the script I guess for this it's not like really a hard script. I don't think 'cause it's not like where you have like all these twists and turns and stuff like that. But writing good comedy, I mean, that's hard in itself. And I would think that he probably wrote the stuff that happened at the party has to be sort of that's like so far. I mean, that's really different almost. It's like the biker gang comes in and stuff like that. I mean, that's really different feel than the rest of the film. But I mean, that's where it shows them their growth, if you will, when they stand up for themselves
Well, yeah, I
and
mean that was
also,
the point, was because they were, she was trying to get them out of their comfort zone and get them to do something that would, you know, like most of the movie, the whole movie is pretty much Lisa knows everything about these guys, everything,
yeah.
and she is now using that knowledge to try and help them get girls, and but also get self-esteem,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
everything.
it's kind of hard to even figure if they created her or if she's like some sort of magical being because it's like the biker gang, they know all the details that only she knew, so it's like she sort of manifested herself into that or something like that. They make them up, if you will, and she, to me, I think she's some sort of like magical thing. I mean, you can't think too deeply on this movie because if you do, then you're just going to get lost in the. I mean, obviously, it's not very real, but I mean, to me, it just shows a way of having the two boys grow up in some ways. Um, is Alfred still here?
I think
I think
so. Alfred,
yeah,
you there? I guess not.
yeah. I thought he had something came up on the screen, but
Yeah, I'm
uh,
here.
okay.
Okay.
Well, what's your take on the movie? I mean, what really got you into what parts you really like on it? I mean, what is the allure to you in the film?
Well, it's going to sound funny, but in John Hughes movies, I'm always digging the homes, how big they are.
That's
They
true.
just really neat place. I think that'd be a neat house to live in, you know?
Yeah,
It's
well,
kind of odd, but
yeah, well, this one was big enough to drive motorcycles around in.
I know, right? And then I think, and I liked all the kind of the parts that are going on the computer and all the early '80s graphics and them trying to do the war games thing to make the lady. And I mean, it's funny the lengths people would go to find someone. I just thought it was crazy. But it
Yeah,
was
but
good, crazy.
yeah, but the second time that they ran everything through, they didn't put the doll there of her, which was a doll that looked kind of like her.
Hmm?
They didn't put the doll there, and it mutated that rocket and blew that
Yep.
Yeah,
rocket up
that
through the
was
hell.
funny. And Chet, of course, who doesn't like Chet?
Oh, to me, yeah, that's absolute
He's,
brilliant performance.
I
Was that
mean,
one of his first roles?
I think one of his most like first big iconic roles, because I
Mhm.
Because
don't
he's
know if
had
he did like Aliens before this, right? Wasn't he in Aliens? I want to say.
Yeah,
well, Aliens would have been after this because I mean, 85, 86. So
Okay.
it would have been very close. So I mean, filming wise, I don't know. I mean, I think this one was first. It was a year or so before, but
right.
um, you never know. I mean, but his facial. I mean, the way he can just do those facial expressions and just love him in this. Um,
No, he was Clyde in Streets of Fire, which we're doing next.
mhm.
So there you
And
go.
back to school. He was in that, but that was after this. So, well, no, I'm thinking of Downey Jr. now.
Oh
So,
shoot, he was in Stripes. He was a soldier in Stripes.
that's right. He's um, I think he's just one of the at one of the mortar range or something like that. It's like a very quick. It's more of a glorified extra, if I remember correctly.
He's also Eddie in Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker. You know.
Just about every actor or actress, I think they always have some
Yeah,
horror
he
stuff in
was
their
in
beginning.
right after that. He was in Mortuary, which is another '80s horror film.
He looks like the
And
Terminator. He's one of the three punks at the beginning of Terminator.
yep, he's the punk in the beginning of Terminator.
Nothing clean, right? Or a nice night for a wash. And I think the other guy was was the big mutant in X Files. The other
Oh,
guy with the.
Well,
the-
Well, seeing that we talked about Paxton here, just think of the other ones that the cast. So we have Anthony Michael Hall. Everybody knows him. I mean, he was coming off of 16 Candles, and
I met
I
him.
was.
I met him and the other guy, Elon Mitchell. Both of them
Oh,
are nice.
really?
Yeah, they were at Blood at the Beach back in the day, and super nice guys. My friend Karen ended up dating Anthony Michael Hall for a little bit, and
Oh.
then they broke up. And I was mad because I introduced them.
Well,
I
he's
was her wingman.
well. He's still acting now. I mean, I remember him in was it Halloween a couple years ago, one of the
Yeah, he
Halloweens.
wears a suit, by the way. And I only know this because I apparently was drunk when I met him, and I asked him three different times, why does he wear a suit? And he
Do you remember why?
the last time I was sober, and I asked him that, and he goes, "Yeah, you already asked me this like three times, but all right." It's like I wear a suit because I want to look professional when I go to these things. So
Hmm, interesting. Well,
yeah.
you could have talked about him in Weird Science when he got drunk in that situation, or his
I don't think
character.
I wasn't a huge Weird Science fan like then. I didn't become more into it till later in life. Like I said, I watched it on TV or whatever, but I didn't like it wasn't my favorite of the John Hughes movies. I watched Breakfast Club a lot more than it, and I also watched um Ferris Bueller's a lot more. So those two and Uncle Buck and this were just not my thing at that time. I later, as an adult, more even older, I became, my 30s, I became more a lover of these movies.
The
And
Great
that's
Voices kind
interesting.
of reminds me of that too. I don't know if that's connected in any way, but and then you got Home Alone also, which is in the same universe.
Mm.
I think. I don't know.
I know
But
it took place in Chicago. I don't think it took place. I don't think he counted Home Alone as Shermer.
Okay.
Shermer and did you guys? That was the first time I noticed the sign. I never saw that before. The
Oh,
sign
the
that
sign when
said
it caught on
"Welcome
fire.
to," that caught on fire. I don't know why I never noticed it before, or I never remembered it, until I saw it, and I was like, "Holy crap! There's a sign that says "Welcome to Shermer," and then it
Well,
says something about America's city or something.
it's probably kind of, well, I mean, in the gym class they're wearing stuff I think that says Shermer as well, but you could probably get that sign lost because it's like they have the other things where like the laundry stuff's shooting out, and the dog sitting on upside down on the roof barking at its owner and
Yeah,
all.
there's so much
Right.
going on. So it probably my brain just went on to
Yeah,
because it's like an ADHD trip, like
yeah. Well,
uh,
there's something you were saying there a couple minutes ago that really has my interest. Where as a younger person, it's kind of odd that as a younger person you had more of a pull towards Breakfast Club because it has a lot more mature themes in it. This has a lot more teenage boy type of. It's kind of just fun, light stuff. So it's like it's kind of interesting that you got into something so deep because that's what Breakfast Club. I mean, is a lot deeper, if you will.
yeah, I don't know why, but I think it's because I was in high school and I freaking hated detention. So I think that might have been it. Like that I kind of I fell for these and also this is gonna age me for how old I am, but was it Dawson's Creek had a Breakfast Club scene. And I think that's what I was like, this is hilarious. And then I found out, oh, that's just a ripoff of Breakfast Club. And I was like, what? What's this movie? So I think there's that thing where I didn't really grow up watching these movies because I mean, I what did I watch? I watched like Ghostbusters and Princess Bride and things like that. But and John Hughes wasn't like a name to me at that time, you know?
But with a kind of a fantasy sci-fi element to this, it kind of fits more in those than the John Hughes films almost.
Mhm.
So that's where this one's a little bit different
It
than his
should
other
have
ones.
been something I watched, but like I said, I watched the
Yeah,
TV series instead, and I think that's what, got me into it.
yeah. Alfred, do you have something?
And that, not really, not in that. For
Okay.
that. The
So I'm
versus.
sorry.
Wasn't there Kevin Smith where they was trying to find Shermer, Illinois or something?
Yes, in Dogma.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
In Dogma, they were looking. Jay and Silent Bob were looking for Shermer, Illinois or whatever, and they went to Chicago or whatever, and stuff like that. But which is funny because they mentioned it in Chasing Amy a little bit that he's got to go to Chi-Town, uh, and then when Ben Affleck asks them what are they doing there? It's like business, yo, right? Which
Uh,
I don't know if he had that plan that was gonna lead into Dogma. I think he was hoping it would. Because if you actually watch Clerks, it doesn't say Jane Silent Bob will be back in Mallrats. It says they'll be back in Dogma because that was the original plan. But then uh it was too big of a movie as supposedly. I don't know. I've talked to Vincent Pereira about it before and got different information, so I need to ask him again.
And this is where he would insert nerd, huh?
Yeah. Vincent calls me nerd, which works for this movie, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So looking at the cast for this, Anthony Michael Hall, who's been in a number of the John Hughes films and still acts today. Ela Mitchell Smith, he stopped and I think didn't he become like a professor? I think in Texas
Became a
or something.
professor, and I met him when he was a professor, and I asked him if he was going to go back to acting. He said no. He had no
what, else,
desire. He'd retired. He was done.
what else did he do?
He had done like, I think was he in Chocolate War, if I'm correct?
My Chocolate, yeah, something. There was,
Oh
it
yeah,
was,
yeah, yeah, I remember that one.
yeah, the Chocolate War, yeah.
The Chocolate War. I have that actually, right?
And then he was in Superboy, a TV series.
Ah,
Um,
Chocolate War.
uh,
Look,
yeah,
There's that Glover in it. Crispin Glover, or one of the Glovers.
Yeah. But I thought I remember reading something that he just didn't have it just wasn't his passion or something like that, and he didn't want to take away from people who could give a little bit more passion. It just wasn't his calling. It sounded like he had, I guess, the teaching element that he really wanted to go in. But
I think he just, yeah. I mean, I think I've talked about this before. I'm not sure if it's on this podcast or not, but I interviewed an actress that was in Mrs. Doubtfire, Lisa Jacob. And I mean, when you're a kid and you're kind of forced to be an actor, you know, and that's all you sort of know, when you get to be an adult and you get to decide like what you want to do with your life, you know, some actors, some child actors are just like, I don't want to do this. Like this isn't fun for me anymore, you know?
Yes.
And they just go on and do other things. Now, there's some actors who this is in their blood and that's what they want to do. And there's some actors who just don't know, and this is the only thing they know, you know? So they're just like, I'm going to do that. So,
well, if he's like a college professor or something like that, I mean, that's pretty, I mean, that takes some education there. So, and obviously some passion. So, so the two of them, they're obviously the leads. Kelly LeBrock, she was in this, and I remember in the Steven Seagal film, and she's been in a few other things. But obviously, I think this
it's
is
kind of sad that her career
biggest
didn't
thing.
take off, you know?
Yeah, this is probably her biggest thing. And I think she was married to Seagal for a while too. But
poor girl.
She was a model, I think. Two of them being a model for Sports Illustrated and stuff, professional modeling for magazines and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. And I remember Women in Red. She was in that, and yeah. So, only 16 acting credits. So she didn't do a whole lot, but probably the modeling thing to your point, and but Weird Science is probably her from cinema standpoint. That's what most people are going to remember her from. We talked about Bill Paxton Chet, which I mean. Nothing can. I mean, we could talk a whole episode just on him in this movie. To be honest, I mean everything. I mean and when he walks into the room,
baby.
It's snowing in my bedroom.
I used to get them mixed up with Bill Pullman. I mean, not like looks or anything, just their names.
I get Jeff Daniels mixed up with Bill Pullman for looks.
For looks, Jeff Goldblum. Pullman. That's funny.
I can see Bill Paxton, Bill Pullman. I crossed the names up with was it Mattson and Tom Sizemore?
Oh, Tom Sizemore.
Yeah, in some of the roles in the mid '90s and stuff like that. So I can see the Paxton Pullman thing. So he was Wyatt's brother. The two girls, Suzanne Snyder, who was Deb, and
I'm friends with her on Facebook, but I've never communicated or anything, and I don't think she uses it anymore. You know, so
there was some sort of, didn't you, when you said you were watching this, that there was some reference to her or something in the comments? I thought maybe not.
Well, I
or tried to tag her.
I tagged her in the comments and just said I loved watching you in this. She didn't respond, so I was pretty sure when looking at her page that she just wasn't, you know,
just not active.
Yeah, not active on it.
Yeah. I remember her in an episode of Seinfeld. That's the stuff that really comes. The other one, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I think there was something I remembered her from that Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she was in that. She was in something, and I was like, oh my God, that's her. Well, she was Night of the Creeps. She was in the last. She was a cheerleader in the Last Starfighter, which I think I would love to do that at some point on the show.
Night of the Creeps. Everyone's got a horror film.
Well, she also did Return of the Living Dead too, so she was a horror person. What was the? Yeah, you're right. So Seinfeld and
she was in the episode. She was in the episode when I think that George and Jerry were perceived to be speakers at a Nazi rally or something.
Oh God.
And she was involved in it. I think she was like related to something with that.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So she was one of the girls. The other one, Judy Aronson. I'm friends with her on Facebook, I believe. And she's in one of my favorite Friday the 13th. So
horror.
Yeah, there exactly. Friday 13th Part 4. She has one of the best death scenes I think in a horror film. So,
And to go back to Glover, Crispin Glover is in part 4, so it's
there you go.
all comes
Yeah,
full circle.
it's all a big circle. And she was also in American Ninja, the original, and which is kind of funny because the black guy from as an American Ninja that was in he's in this as well. He's one of the guys at the at the club.
Mm-hmm.
I can't
My
remember his
favorite
name.
scene in the whole movie.
Oh,
I
the scene you got in the background there.
this
It's
well, yeah, that's why I
yeah,
have it in my background because
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
literally my favorite scene in the whole movie is him.
Something about Malakas.
It was something
Yeah.
about Malakas and
And
what
and drink it.
And that guy was Pal in Uncle Buck, I think.
yeah.
Well, are you talking about what's
Yeah,
his
I said
name?
Malakas.
John Kapelos. He's the guy from Breakfast Club's in that.
He's the janitor, and
the janitor in Breakfast Club. He was
he's the father in 16 Candles. The
well,
rich chicks.
I don't think he was a father. Wasn't he the one that was getting married to the other? He was one that was getting
Yeah,
married to the older sister.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
they had, and I was watching they have a quick little 5-10 minute conversation with him on the 4K cut here, and I did listen to that a little bit because he's a hoot in these, but he was the bar owner in this one.
Nice.
So there was him, the two rival guys, Robert Downey Jr. I guess he was just Robert Downey in this one. He didn't even have the junior tagged on this yet.
Which is weird
Um,
because his dad was still Robert Downey. So
yeah,
he should have
so
been.
I'm not sure the reasoning there, but he had some good facial expressions and stuff like that with like the girl and stuff like that. Just he's always good.
Can you guys see that?
And then
No, it's not letting you see
not
it,
really.
but I got the poster.
Oh yeah, the poster.
Oh yeah.
Poster comes with it. It's reversible, by the way.
Yeah, that's the OG. That's the original.
Yeah,
there.
so you got the original and the new, and then you got that, and this actually is reversed as well. And
I didn't reverse the cover out. I might have to do that because I definitely
well, I do that
uh,
because I do that all the time anyway because this is the cover, thing on it, slip cover, the slip cover, and then I always make it be the different one. Somebody online said that once, and I said, "Oh my God, I need to do that." So that makes more sense. Why would I keep both of them on there when I got a chance? It also comes with like an awesome booklet.
Yeah, I saw the booklet in there, and it's like I haven't even had a chance to really dig into everything yet. I know that you can watch the edited for TV version, which I saw a couple of the clips of it.
I
and
did
it's like,
too.
the edited are the way that they edit that is
Well,
awful.
it's just like because Arrow released this. Arrow also did the
Yeah.
Mallrats one, and the
Yeah.
Mallrats had the TV cut and stuff.
Yeah.
And the problem with the TV cut for Mallrats and everything is just the line. All the dialogue is like instead of saying a certain line or whatever, the cursing. They'll have to change the cursing, and it sounds like somebody else most of the time. It doesn't even sound like them.
But I like how they have like that Arrow does this where they have the side to side to where it's like you could watch and does a little comparison and stuff like that. So that's cool.
I wish I had commentary. I mean, you obviously can't have John Hughes back, but from the dead to do the commentary. But it would be cool if they had like Anthony Michael Hall and Elan Mitchell, talking about this movie and stuff, like what it was like making it and everything. I just want to hear the commentary about the, jazz scene because from what I heard, that was all improv. They just let Anthony Michael Hall just go, and they all went with it. And you can kind of tell if you watch that scene. There's a part where she interrupts him, right? And at first he looks surprised the first time, right? Like he like what, you're stepping on my lines kind of thing. And then he kind of just goes with it, which is that is improv for you. You're supposed to, you're not supposed to disagree with the person or whatever.
In
You know,
in the Family Jewels.
in the family jewels. That shit was funny. I love those guys. I like that guy who says you look like a malaka or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, he also was in a couple other
He
John
played
Hughes
Pal in
movies.
Uncle Buck.
Yeah, I think he was in a few John Hughes movies.
Yeah.
So
And let's see here. Who else was well that's that scene when just the whole element of getting the fake IDs to get into the place. And they had Wyatt's he had like a mustache.
well, I mean, because it was supposed to look like he was, older or whatever. So I guess the idea is that like in on the ID, he looks the age he's supposed to look or whatever. But then when you shave off his mustache, he looks younger,
Yeah. But
So
yeah. And one of the guys in that scene, he's the bartender at the party back at the house, and he and, and when Downey Jr. he's like something asked for a drink, and he's like on the rocks. He's like, how about I put he's like on the rocks is fine.
yeah,
It's just
he
it's just
was.
great.
I love that
Uh,
scene. I do love that they did that. But what's funny is that one of the guys is supposed to be the owner of the club, right? And he's talking in Anthony Michael Hall is talking about eighth grade bitches and stuff like that, or whatever. That's his quote, not mine. But he's saying that, and he's talking about eighth grade, and I'm like thinking, is when he be kicked out of the club, like promoting the fact that he's either a 30-something-year-old having sex with an eighth grader,
mhm.
or he is obviously young enough to be dating an eighth grader, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I guess it just goes with the whole
You have
idea of
to
this movie.
suspend your disbelief because all of this is magic. Like in my brain, none of this is really happening.
Yeah.
Like that's how I kind of view it as none of this is actually happening because, but it
But,
is.
yeah. So continuing to go through the cast. I mentioned Downey Jr.
Running
Robert
well.
Russler. Robert Russler in this.
Mm,
He was cool, and I saw that Downey Jr. drove him to his audition for Elm Street 2
nice.
while they were making this, and I'm like, well, there's another horror film.
Well, he
It's
told
like,
me because I met Robert Russler and I interviewed him a while back. Unfortunately, got lost. I don't know what happened to the interview.
oh,
But it was an amazing interview. But we were chatting at Scares That Care, the first Scares That Care and stuff. And he was talking about how when he met, because I asked him about Weird Science. You can't talk to and I want to talk about Thrash, and that's my favorite movie. But we haven't done that one yet. Maybe we'll do that if we do our other sports movies at some point. We'll do Thrashing because I'll count that as a sport. Um, but anyway, he goes and talks about how he met he met Robert Downey Jr. and he had never met him before. Right? This was like his first time. And he started talking about how uh automatically he went over to Downey Jr. walked over to his house, rang his doorbell, and Robert Rustler's like, "Hey, what's up?" And he was like, "Hey, you want to hang out?"
well,
Because they had to be
and
friends.
and they really seem to be friends. I mean,
Yeah.
for somebody for characters that could just be the stereotypical bad guys. I mean, they had a little bit of depth to them. I mean, and
Mhm.
it wasn't just a cardboard cutout bad guys, if you will. So they were kind of fun. Um, uh, so that's the main cast. Then we start getting into the other ones, like the biker gang that comes in with Vernon Wells. Uh, is his name? The character is Lord General.
Mm.
I just, is and I is this was I think this might have been his first American film, or it was one of his earlier ones. So
Oh.
he was he was good there. Everyone's favorite, Michael Berryman, part of that gang. It, and he said, don't. I think it was twofold. He made that little joke in there about being a teacher because of was it that Motley Crue video about that time where he was the principal or something like that. But he says, yeah, I don't want to get involved because I'm a teacher and stuff like that. But Berryman, he was good as always. I mean, he always good. Um, Let's see here. Who else am I missing here? I mean, I think that's the predominantly the main cast. Uh, you just
Father
mentioned your.
Gary, the Gary's father. Who is this? That's one of my favorite lines of the movie because I got one of my best
Oh,
friends. His name is Gary. Dude, who
oh,
is the Gary character?
that is absolute brilliance because it's his dad. It's like who's this Gary? And then eventually by the end of it, he's getting pissed off. He's like like talking about Gary.
Yeah, like stop telling me
Yes,
about this
man,
Turek guy.
Gary. Who the hell is Gary?
Yeah, it's like his best thing he could do is toss off to magazines in the bathroom, and then the mom's like, "Oh, Gary."
Why is it that like Chet's big poop monster thingy character, blob thingy, why
Oh, yeah,
did that only last a few minutes? But like the grandparents being catatonic and the was it the other parents not knowing, or the one parent not knowing who Gary is, they are all like they all last a long ass time, with all that. I don't
Yeah,
know.
Maybe the friend was up at
it,
8 in the morning or something and didn't when he would turn back.
Yep.
yeah. Well, and I mean, if we want to get critical on those type of scenes, they reverse everything back. How did the grandparents get from inside the closet and being catatonic to back home or at least out of the house?
Yeah, that's right, because they're not in the
I,
house, I guess, at the end. They're not there. I don't know
yeah.
whatever happened to them, because I don't think they like flew or anything. You don't ever
And the
see
lady who
them.
came out with the piano.
I mean, that was such a cool like thing with everything reversing the rocket ship going, back and everything. I mean, that was just a cool like setup, or
It was
whatever.
an intercontinental ballistic missile. It wasn't a spaceship. Well,
Okay,
technically, it was a spaceship.
missile. It's a pretty
Well,
big
that
difference.
it was on the front cover of the magazine. They got like mutated or like zapped together or whatever.
Yep.
And the
Um,
goo
um,
that was the second experiment.
Hmm.
I think they were feeding too much
so,
into that second one.
well, let's see here. Oh, I guess it's that it was Steve James, the guy from American Ninja, and then was it David Lee Roth little cameo inside the when they had that the
Hey, TV.
yeah Dave TV.
I
We
remember when they had that
forgot
on.
we got forgot to mention two very important people that are in this movie. Vernon Wells
Well, I mentioned him, yeah,
and
but
Michael
we can talk.
Berryman.
We just talked
Yeah,
about them, John.
Well, a little bit more.
Okay.
I feel like we kind of
No,
just
no, no,
talked
no. I
about them
agree with that, but
briefly.
I was like, welcome back.
Yeah. Was
so
it no, yeah, we talked a bit about them, but not like it was funny because did you notice that what's his name? Robert Downey Jr. calls the other guy Mad Max, right? And then see the guy from Mad Max as like Vernon Wells,
yeah.
as Road Warrior.
So was this his first? I know it was one of his earliest American films. 'Cause, I mean, Road Warrior obviously is Australian, but I thought I saw somewhere that he just came to the States or something like that. So this was like one of his first things that he did in the U.S.
He's in
Um,
Commando.
Commando, yeah.
that was same year, so yeah. I mean that could have been. I think it said he came and did this, and then he auditioned for Commando while he was doing his scenes, and the stuff he did for Weird Science was probably only a couple days of shooting because I mean that segment wasn't that long, but I know there was a number of setups to be going around the house with some of the on motorcycles and stuff like that, and he had a nice level of makeup on, but yeah, I think it was playing off the Mad Max thing though, which is fine.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
I did you talk when you talked to Michael Berryman? Did Weird Science come up in it, or was it
no.
all?
Sadly,
I,
it was more about acting in general. I
yeah.
didn't go into because I mean, it was an impromptu like interview that I did with them. There was
Mhm.
no plan, so I had no like talking points or thoughts of like what I'm gonna ask him. So I didn't
Yeah.
ask. I didn't even ask about the Hills Have Eyes. I think we did talk about The Crow, but it was because he wanted to mention that he will never do a non-union film ever. All his films have to be union because of what happened on The Crow.
Oh, really?
Well,
Yep.
well, I know I've seen some of the clip where you interviewed Michael, and he seemed very thoughtful in his responses. That he was, I mean, and it seemed like he was asked stuff that normally wouldn't get asked. So I mean, I guess that's props to the interviewer there, I guess, on that one. But because he seemed like he didn't really. I mean, he had to really think about some of the stuff that he was talking about. I mean, I didn't know if he went into anything else though outside of that discussion.
Yeah, he didn't talk about specific movies really other than The Crow because we were trying to really go into acting because I feel like if you look at most interviews with him, people will be
Mhm.
like, "Oh, so how was it like working on Weird Science?" And he'll be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that was fun, blah blah blah," and he'll have the same answers. So really, when I interview people, especially at the horror conventions, I don't want to bring up the same stuff. I don't want to talk about the films necessarily. I want to make them feel like they're actors, which sounds very, I don't know, cringy in a
Mhm.
way, but it's, I want to make them feel like they are, that they are doing stuff that they love, or whatever,
Yeah.
for the good sake
Yeah.
and stuff.
Well, I know when I ordered Weird Science, I didn't even realize it until it came in the mail. But I ordered Weird Science, and with it, I also got the double feature of Hills Have Eyes 1 and 2. So it's like the originals. So it's like I was like, oh, this is a Michael Berryman mailing here.
Nice. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so for his stuff. And to be perfectly honest, I don't remember the first two Hills Have Eyes. I know I've seen them. It's been so long that I don't remember. So it's going to be kind of like a fresh watch,
I've
and
only
and that's
seen the
kind of
first
cool.
one and the remake, but those are the only ones I saw. I didn't even see
Yeah.
the
Star
sequels.
Trek 4.
Was he in Star Trek 4?
You played one of the bridge crew. On it.
Nice. I love
Yeah.
Michael Berryman. I think he was really nice. It's funny. So when I was at that convention, when I saw him, my
Mhm.
friend, who's a huge Weird Science fan, right, and everything, sees him and she starts freaking out. That she's like, guy from Weird Science. And I'm like, that's Michael Berryman. And she's like, yes, guy from Weird Science. And I'm like, he's in like horror films. That's like what people know him from, really. They don't and
Yes.
and she like, so there were people dressed up like him from Weird Science and stuff. So it's interesting, you know.
Yeah, 'cause I'd say his probably yeah, Hills Have Eyes and the Motley Crue video is going to be up there, Smoking in the Boys' Room, because I mean that's kind of uh, in a one of those popular music videos of the '80s type thing. Um, so you said your favorite scene was there at the bar.
Mm.
Alfred, your favorite scene specifically?
I like
Do you have one?
who is this Gary character? I just love that. I can't help
Really,
it.
that's like the simplest thing. Like,
You know,
that's nice.
I don't know. This is a personal attachment to my friend Gary. It's like we joke with him about who is this Gary character.
Next time I see Gary at the studio and everything, I'm gonna say, who is this Gary character?
Exactly. So I think for me, there's spots in all of them. I think the bar scene probably is overall probably the funniest, but I really like when they're in with the scene where they're in the bathroom and it's like talking about floating air biscuits, and then the girls come to the door. And Gary's talking to him, and Wyatt in the background is like, they're like, "What are you doing?" It's like in the background, Gary's taking a shit. And then he closes the door and smacks him, and then it's like opens back
It's
up and they
such like
start talking.
a comic, like a cartoon kind of thing,
Yeah,
like,
and
Yeah,
then they
it's a
go in the
fan.
yeah, and then they go in the shower and they start talking. Well, so the girls can have the moments to themselves, and the two guys go in the shower and just sit there and are going back and forth, and it cuts to just their mouths,
It was like
and
a
it's kind of
2001: A Space Odyssey.
yeah,
And watching
yeah.
Hal
So
watching them talk.
yeah, exactly. So it's like I thought that was really funny, and it's just the one-liners that come through on those type of things is just great. But that and any scene that Chet's in, I mean,
I don't.
because
So my only problem with Chet is there's only so much I can take of him. After a while, he just kind of gets irritating to me. Like I'm glad this guy's not my brother, like where he starts making those weird faces and shit. I'm just like, oh,
Well,
gross.
they popped it back as the house drunk. And it's like, and then when Wyatt comes out wearing which I guess would make you believe that something did sexually happen with Lisa, because
Yeah, there's a little bit of weirdness.
he's wearing her underwear. But anyways, Chet sees him. He's like, "And for God's sake, will you please put something on in the cut?" And he gives
Your
him his towel,
panties, something about your panties. And
yeah,
he's, wait a
but
minute.
he gives him the towel, and then it's like you see Bill Paxton, they're ass naked. It's just like, but
Yeah.
it's done comedically, which was kind of funny. So it's just, and I liked it. His segments though were like only 3 to 5 minutes. So I think that to your point, it probably would have been overbearing if he was in there longer in those sequences, because it's just,
Well,
I mean, he was,
I didn't fully
his character,
understand his character though. Like he's the big brother, right? That
and he
came.
was away at college or something, that I think, but then he came home with like a duck or something, like he was out hunting. So
Yeah.
But I don't understand.
The
Oh, go
man,
ahead,
man,
Alfred.
the non-manly man or something.
So you're saying he was a manly man?
I don't know. I'm just trying to. That's why I don't know. You have an alpha and a beta. I don't know. Whatever. I'm just trying to think.
Yeah, he's more of the alpha kind of character. But what I what I just don't understand is like where like so he comes in that night, then he leaves for the rest of the day, doesn't even come home for the party night, and then comes the next day.
He's
Well,
high.
I think he went out hunting or something like
Yeah.
that, because he comes back with the gun. I mean, with the duck or something like that, and the
Okay.
big gun.
Yeah.
So I guess that's how they could explain him being away.
And they said he was going on a hunting trip or something. And, so that's how they could do the trip. That's how they could do the party.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So
I don't
so
remember that line, but like that makes sense. There's a
yeah.
lot to
So
happen in this like
They
hour
were
and a
trying to
half
make
movie.
excuses for everything, and she said she just had an answer for everything.
yeah, exactly.
She said, "I'll
Yeah.
take care of Chad."
Yep. Yep. So you know how I always like to talk about in these podcasts what was popular at the time at the theaters and stuff. So um, this came out the same week as one of them is just like, that's a throwaway. It was well, not for the kids. Sesame Street, Follow That Bird came out that week. And that was number 9 opening week. This movie opened at number 4. It made 4.5, just under
What was
five
number
million its opening
one?
weekend. Well, we'll get to that. I'll get to that. The number 3 also opened the same day. The original Fright Night,
Nice.
same day. This was
Wow,
August
so
2nd.
Friday Night beat out Weird Science?
On the opening weekend. I don't know if it did
Yeah.
in total, but yeah, it made 6.1 to 4.9 its opening weekend. So those were the top 3. Funny thing, number 2 is a movie that Auntie Michael Hall turned down being in to be in Weird Science, and that's European Vacation, because they offered him to be in that. So he turned down one John Hughes movie for another, but he was supposed to, or he could have been in European Vacation, but he chose Weird Science over it.
That's
So
actually a pretty good idea because then I mean then we got Jason Lively, who have also met. There was at that Blood at the Beach, there was a lot of National Lampoon people,
Mhm.
So there
Yeah.
was, there it was like a reunion. So it had the vacation and European Vacation, and I don't think
Anthony
they had
Michael Hall
Christmas
was in the first
Vacation.
vacation, wasn't he?
Was that?
Anthony Michael Hall was in the first one.
Yep, he was in the first one, and then
Yeah.
Jason Lively took over, and then Johnny Galecki was in the third one. But Johnny Galecki does not do these horror conventions.
Yeah, yeah, and then what's his name from Can't Hardly Wait, Embry, that was in the fourth one.
Ethan Embry, yeah, that's right. He's
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
fourth one. He
So
actually really loves that one, by the way. I posted, I was watching it once on Twitter, back when it was called Twitter, and I tagged Ethan Embry, and he said, he commented that he really loved that movie, and that not a
which
lot of
one?
people talk about it. Vegas Vacation.
Oh yeah, I worked at Regal, and it kind of got it met with a lot of disdain in the theater. I mean, there's a lot of people didn't care for it, but
I
so
think it's an underrated gem, honestly.
yeah, I'm sort of, but I mean, it's not the end of the world bad or anything like that. But and I like his character in it because it's like they're like, what'd you do? I put money in. I want a car. Put money in. I want a car. Yeah. So now number one that week in its fifth week of release, Back to the Future. So I mean,
that makes sense.
Yeah. So other movies that was in the top 10, Black Cauldron, Disney film was number 5. 6 was E.T. in a re-release, obviously. 7, Cocoon. 8, Silverado, and 10 was Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Wow.
So Mad Max. Yeah, so that was in its 4th week, so it was starting to fade.
They don't
away,
do re-releases anymore. They should do that. Like really re-release a movie that came out 3 years. What came out 3 years ago that would, other than like a Marvel movie, but like something fun that came out like 3 years ago.
Well, what they're doing now, it's like I think right now this week or so, we're in a couple week stretch. They're showing a lot of the Harry Potter films, but it's like so. But to your point, yeah. Well, I think back then their stuff didn't come out right away on video and stuff like that. So I mean, putting it back out a couple years later, it could still have mass appeal. Nowadays, it's like you put something out in the theater and it's on streaming. I think after 3 weekends, it could be, you could pay for it on streaming.
I mean, I get it, but I don't get it. Like I made a whole post about that. I don't know if you saw it. I think you did. I think you.
Yeah, I did. I almost really got like, but I was just like, yeah, because there was a movie that was. Some of them just are gone so quickly now in the theater, but some of them you could stream and you could purchase it, and so it's like, I mean, I guess it's to appeal to everyone because we're such a segmented society.
Yeah, some people just want to watch movies at home, and some of them want to go back to the theater. I get it sometimes, like, because especially if it's a crowded theater, you don't want to get diseases and other stuff. Like, I'm going to go see Captain America tomorrow, at 4:00.
Same here.
And I looked at the Regal, and there's only one other person so far that's going to be there at 4:00, and I'm like, geez, I'm surprised about that.
I think there's like 50 or 60 in the screen that I'm going to see it. I'm seeing it on the IMAX screen.
But are you seeing it
5.
at 5? Okay.
Yeah. Well, they have a 2:00, but I have to work, so it's like, but they have IMAX 3D and stuff like that. But mine's just IMAX, so it's like I'll watch it in IMAX, and I'm not holding out hope on that as much, but we'll see. But
Captain America.
Yeah,
I'm kind of excited to see it. I've heard so far there have been rumblings. Like I'll say this real quick because it has nothing to do with weird science, but I'll say it real quick. But there was a guy, and I'm gonna say the name because I don't care because he's not. It's not an attack on him. But this dude Drum Dums that's on YouTube, and I love watching his stuff. And I saw him on what is it, on Instagram, and he had posted a screenshot of somebody who, and then I went to his YouTube to check it out, on his channel, commented because he said nice things about Captain America Brave New World, that all of a sudden now he's a shill for Disney, and and that he's getting paid by Disney to do these things. Like all these new YouTubers, he's been doing YouTube for over 10 years, and yet he's a new YouTuber who's doing, and I'm like, and then I looked at the dude, and the dude's a director. Like, it was on his director thing, and I'm like, don't be. If you're a director,
people just need to check out from. I mean, well, if he liked it or didn't like it, I mean, that's his call. I mean,
who cares? If you don't like his review of the movie, don't watch it.
Yeah. I mean, that's why it's like I'm going to watch it right away because I don't want to have any spoilers and stuff like that. But to me, I've been burnt enough on those, and just movies in general. It's like you try to curb expectations, and
so you have zero expectations going in.
Yeah, but I mean, some of the and sometimes when you do different cuts of the previews, I mean, the last preview actually, I was like, actually, that's
I thought the first preview looked good. Even John Ward was surprised and was like, it looks good,
Yeah.
like, and
Well,
he
I
hates
like the one where
Marvel.
where they did the line with the split screen and stuff like that. That's the one that I got.
What I don't like is they did the thing where they, made it like really like it looks like a it could really give somebody a seizure watching it, and there's no like, and I have a few friends who can get seizures from that stuff, and I think like, dudes, like,
Yeah, they shouldn't put that. They shouldn't put that in the previews because that's
no, not all,
because
period.
there's the epileptic stuff that people can have and
Right. Like,
like
do you
that.
want
But
them to have that in the theater, like right before they see
yeah,
another movie, have a go into shock? That
yeah.
would suck.
But I think us talking about the theater stuff, actually bringing it back to Weird Science, I think we're starting to turn a corner, though, maybe now in Hollywood that we're starting to get some of these smaller films. And to me, Weird Science is a smaller film. It's not a huge, major production type of thing and stuff like that. It's not like a tentpole summer type film. And I
Is
think we're
that going into
starting to
your
get that.
budget? Is that going to go into your budget breakdown of it that you sometimes do, where you talk about how much it made and all that? Exactly.
Oh well, I don't think on the page that I'm looking at is an accurate portrayal because it says its total gross was only like 5 million, and I think that was its opening weekend. So I think that there's some errors to that. So I'm not. It says worldwide 23 million. So I don't
According
know.
to IMDb, it was on a $7.5 million budget and grossed worldwide $38,934,048. So it was
Okay.
a hit.
So yeah, it was a hit, and I think, like I was saying earlier, John Hughes got this made. He made this, and it helped him get Breakfast Club made. And Breakfast Club's obviously a deeper film. This one's one you watch and just enjoy and have good laughs with. Breakfast Club there's a lot of there's depth to that in the sense of you really can identify in high school with the different people in there and stuff like that,
I thought I
it
remembered
takes it a different way.
I thought I remembered hearing that John Hughes told Anthony Michael Hall he had a part for him in Weird Science based on him being in Breakfast Club. Am I correct on that? Am I right? Because I think that's what I remember reading.
No, I thought Breakfast Club was made after this.
No, I think, was it?
I
When
thought
was
he got this. I thought he got cast in this based off of 16 Candles. He chose this over European Vacation. Um,
Okay, hold on. I mean, this might even be wrong anyway, because anybody can say anything about, whatever um on, on IMDb. Um,
because here it has Vacation 83, 16 Candles 84, and then it says, well, it actually lists Breakfast Club below Weird Science. So I mean, it might have come out. If it came out first, then obviously it had to.
it
Well,
had to have been
I don't know.
shot first.
I would
Um,
think. Well, not
I'm gonna
I
look
guess
that
not
up.
necessarily, but it's like, I mean, maybe they were like shot back to back or something like that. I mean, I'm sure that there was a place that shows like the production window or something like that, like which one was shot first. I think they used some of the shots for both of these for like some of the schools and different school shots and stuff like that. So um,
I'll
not really
find.
sure, not really, yeah, not really sure which one was shot first, but I mean, I'm sure that we could probably that information can be found out. So
I'm finding out in 2 seconds. It wasn't on the Breakfast Club trivia, but it might be on the Weird Science because that would make sense if Weird Science was the one that he said.
Han shot first.
Which one?
Han shot first.
Oh,
oh,
I was like, wait, what? Um, no, it doesn't say.
it says casting. Hughes wrote. Okay, that's Vacation. Hall opted out of reprising the role to star in Weird Science, which we do that. Then talks about Shermer, Road Warrior Connection, Kelly LeBrock, Downey Jr. shenanigans. I believe there was some stuff on set that he played jokes or something like that.
Well,
On
both of Anthony Michael Hall and Robert Downey Jr. would later worked together in 1985-86 season of Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, I think isn't that the year that it was like considered a complete bust of a season. One
Probably.
of them, some of them didn't even last the whole season. But I mean, I think they're both really good. But maybe Saturday Night Live is not their forum or their platform. Um,
Hold on. I'm asking online. Did John Hughes tell Anthony Michael Hall he wrote Weird Science. Weird Science for him. I don't know for this, but hold on. Let me look it up. Let me see what they Yes, John Hughes specifically wrote Weird Science with Anthony Michael Hall in mind for the role of Gary Wallace. At the time, Hughes and Hall had already worked together on 16 Candles, where Hall played a geek, and Hughes was impressed with his comedic timing and charisma. Hughes saw Hall as his potential or personal on-screen surrogate, often casting him in the awkward and endearing underdogs in his films. After Weird Science, Hughes also wanted Hall to star in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but Hall turned it down, leading to Matthew Broderick taking the role. So yes, Hughes did tell Hall that Weird Science was written for him, which explains why the role fits so perfectly with his comedic style and personality.
hmm.
So yeah, I think he did that on the set of uh Breakfast Club. That's what I remember reading. But it could be wrong, and he could have said it any time, right? Like, I'm personally writing this for you, you know, and stuff.
Yeah.
It does feel like an Anthony Michael Hall movie, you know.
So you're saying that it doesn't say which one was done first, or that he wrote it specific.
Let's find out.
He wrote
What
his character
movie went,
specifically for.
what movie shot, what movie shot first? If they do a Han shot first thing, I'll laugh. Shot first, Breakfast Club or Weird Science. Okay. The Breakfast Club was shot first. It was filmed from March to May 1984, but was released later on February 15th, 1985. Weird Science was shot later, beginning in the summer of 84, and was released on August 2nd, 1985. So even though Weird Science came out after Breakfast Club, Anthony Michael Hall had already finished The Breakfast Club before moving on to Weird Science.
Yeah. And then it says here, I was reading on the site here, it says there's many parallels between this film and The Breakfast Club. It says both of them, I think, takes place on the same day area too. So it's like
It's weird
just
because you'd have to think,
yeah,
like, does that mean there's doppelgangers and the Shermer, Illinois thing of there's Gary and then whatever, forgot
the
what
Shermer
his,
verse is it's John Hughes Echo Lake, huh?
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You know,
They call it like the Shermer verse or something.
the sh I'll call
I'm
it the
sure
Shermerverse. That sounds right.
yeah,
I kind of
or
miss
just
that. Like, nobody's gonna be able to do this anymore. You know,
yeah,
I mean, even if they
yeah,
remade this movie, it won't have the same charm and appeal that John Hughes brought to it. You know, like
yeah,
there's just
yeah.
it can't have that. They can still call it Shermer. They can still have the Shermerverse. It just won't be the same.
Yeah, but to be honest, some of John Hughes stuff. I mean, like anybody, he evolved with his films, and I mean that's when he went to the Home Alone, the Uncle Buck. So I mean, he was leaving the teen films. I mean, he even what was his
Didn't he
last one
do
he
like
wrote was it
Baby
Curly Sue? I think
Geniuses
was
or
it.
something? Or did
Maybe
he?
that's Bob Clark. He might have wrote it,
Okay.
but Bob Clark, I
No, he
think.
did Beethoven though. He did do Beethoven. John
Yep,
Hughes.
yeah, yeah, and he did Curly Sue. I
Did
think that was
Curly
his last
Sue.
film. I think that was
He
the
did.
last film he directed, if I'm not mistaken.
Um. Yeah, he did the Home
But
Alone. Oh, one of the last ones he wrote the story for, but didn't direct it, was or write it, was Drill Bit Taylor with Owen Wilson. Um. Also, he did the story for Made in Manhattan.
oh,
Um,
the J Lo film. Wow.
yeah, he wrote the screenplay for Flubber. He wrote the
Well, that's just
screen.
a. But
What?
that was a remake because I mean
Right,
Flubber was a
the
yeah.
Robin Williams one. He also did the live action 101 Dalmatians. Wrote Miracle on 34th Street, and he did Baby's Day Out. That's what I was thinking. Not Baby Geniuses, Baby's Day Out. That movie is so bad. I remember going to it in the theater and as a kid going, "What? This is not even
Wait, you
fun."
said you saw Baby's Day Out in the theater?
Yeah, I was a kid. I
Well,
was
that kid,
this
wasn't that like
94,
92? So you were like
90,
14 at the 13, 14
94.
at the
I
time.
was 12.
So see, you were 12, 13 watching that. I was 12, 13 watching Weird Science. Boy, film started to take a different turn. Well, I mean, I know you love your 90s, so I'm
What
not
what
going to
I
go
what
on.
I mean was 94 that I think wasn't that the same year Street Fighter came out? Like that's really
Yeah,
what I really Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat came out that year or so around that year.
yeah.
I think maybe
Well, that would have been Clerks territory too. So
I
93.
didn't watch Clerks till 96 or 7,
Yeah.
96 because
Well,
that's when I discovered Mallrats.
yeah. Well, I was a couple years in working in the video store at that point when Clerks came out. So it was like that was completely up my alley. I'm talking about Weird Science and these type movies being my teen and
But that
preteen
was
years.
also Kevin Smith's teenage years and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like I think that's why I think that's probably why he made those references and stuff like that. And
Yeah, he loved
it's just
the Hughes movies,
yeah, yeah, because the Hughes movies and Star Wars and stuff like that. That's you can see how that impacts Smith.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
yeah. So well, I think we hit on just about everything. I mean, unless you guys have anything
Alfred,
else specific to this.
Alfred, do you have anything that we
Fred
didn't
McMurray
touch
was
on?
the original Flubber character. Fred McMurray was in the Flubber and from the 50s.
Which one? Who?
Fred McMurray, you said
Oh,
Flubber?
Fred McMurray, yeah.
Yeah. I just
So,
remember watching it with that and him in it when I was a kid.
well, did you have
Yes.
anything to add about Weird Science?
Um, I just thought it was a great mid '80s movie. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. It's funny how you tell when a movie's been filmed in the early '80s, the mid '80s, and the late '80s. Because I was watching The Dream Team and a couple other movies recently.
I've got that. I can't wait to rewatch that.
Yeah, we watched it last weekend. It was great.
I'll have to
Yeah,
get
it's
you
getting
on my
late.
show. I've got to get somebody to come on that show to talk about their dream team with me. So I'll
Sure.
get you, Alfred. But
Yeah.
There you go. Because that's later 80s there. That's like 88, 89.
Yeah.
Was it Joe and I are going to be talking about that movie Dave, with
Yeah.
Kevin Kline,
Early,
where he's the
early.
president.
That's like 93, I think, 92, 93, 94 in that vicinity, somewhere in there. But before I know the music, Boingo Boingo, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Danny Elfman. We didn't really talk about that. I know you have have a little bit of something to say about that, huh, Moody?
Well, yeah, I totally forgot we got all into everything else and I just like slipped my mind. So, yeah, so was it Danny Elfman was in Oingo Boingo, with I think was Richard Elfman in Oingo Boingo as well? I think he was. And they did Weird Science as the song, and the theme song for Weird Science, the movie. And Richard Elfman's wife, Anastasia Elfman, is going to be on my show, Criterion Watch, with Paul and I tonight to discuss The Uninvited, which is one of her favorite,
Oh, that one
movies.
was good. Great. The black and white one?
Yeah, the 1944 black and white.
Oh,
What?
yeah.
Yeah.
The Judy Christie.
Yeah.
And
And it's got the dude from it's got crap jeez, why don't they don't have the cast and crew on the thing on here.
the teeny bopper.
Yeah, where is it? Oh, Criterion, you are awful. Okay, here it is. Ray
Criterion
Milland.
off.
Ray Milland, Ruth Hussey, and Donald Crisp and Gail Russell. Yes, I think that's who Alfred mentioned a second ago. So it was a great. Was that
One other person in there who's I'll look it up. It's going bother me till.
all right? I really liked it. I thought I had a blast with that film. I hadn't seen it in a while, and As I said, it was one of Anastasia's favorite movies. So not only will she be talking about it on this one, she has another podcast she's going to be talking about about it with as well. So, but it is one of her favorites. So I can't wait to. We don't have any talking points. We're just like this. We're just going to go into it, and discuss all the, you know, interesting
Well,
stuff with it.
and I think some like the Criterion one, you guys can dig into the background of the making of it, the Criterion version of it, and stuff like that. It's like with this, we get to talk in this podcast about the Hollywood implications of this film and what was going on around it and stuff like that. So like the John Hughes universe, if you will, and stuff like that. So I think these different podcasts can obviously cater to the worlds that we're in, and I think this was quintessential 80s cinema to me.
Yeah, that movie was, in that movie, The Uninvited
Oh
is
Jesus, I'm thinking of the wrong one, and I'm thinking, yes, that was great too. Shit, I was thinking of the house one,
well,
Hell
this
House,
one
or
it
Hill
does.
House,
Oh, Hell House. Okay, The Legend of Hell House.
the one with Russ
Yes.
Tamblyn in it and Julie
Okay.
Fisher.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. No, that's
I can't
completely
remember the name of
different.
that one, but yeah, the Uninvited. This one is one of my favorites actually. I love
It's
Ray
the
Milland.
Yeah,
It's
Ray
so
Milland,
good.
and it's one of the first actual ghost movies. Usually, uh, ghost movies were taken, like Goofy, like what is it? The Abbott and Costello Catch a Ghost kind of thing or something,
Or
and
the Stooges were going around in the
yeah, and usually it wasn't a real ghost; it was somebody dressed up in a sheet or something, or
I like
whatever.
it when he's on the boat and he goes, shit, he gets sick on the boat.
Yeah. It's a great one. I can't wait to dive into it and get yeah, that scene, I can't wait to discuss that because that scene is so weird. It goes on a little bit too long in my opinion. I'm like, like I get it, but it didn't help like, whatever. It's just I feel like they had a lot of footage and they just kind of left it in the movie. But I can't wait. Maybe Anastasia will have something else to discuss on that, that scene or whatever. Maybe that's her favorite scene. I don't know. But it'll be fun. It'll be a fun time. And then I have this like I didn't plan this. It just sort of happened this way. Is like, what day can you come on? Wednesday night. Okay. Well, I've got another podcast, but I've got time between, there you go.
so I
Oh yeah,
think
one
we're
thing I
wrap.
want to think about Oingo Boingo. It was travel without they were going on tour without Danny Elfman, and then they were Boingo without him.
They were
Oh.
just Boingo without him.
Yeah,
No Boingo.
Just
And
Boingo.
yeah.
no,
When we were going, well, what if someone else leaves? Is it going to be go or no?
Um,
Um,
but yeah, I love this. I'm really excited to talk to him because, I mean, the Elfman family's awesome. Like they've got so many. Danny, I mean, his composing of like all the Tim Burton movies. He didn't compose this movie, did he? He just did that song, right? He just did that song. I don't think.
I don't know.
song.
I don't know if he did this whole score or not. Let's see here. Music by it. No, it says Ira
Ira Newborn.
Newborn.
Okay, that actually makes.
Yeah.
Yep, no, I remember there is a really cool, like
Oh,
very short documentary thing, like a little featurette with Ira Newborn talking about how he came up with the music for this, like the
Yeah,
song.
I still got to check out these other parts on the Arrow cut, and I'm interested to watch some of that side by side comparisons a little bit more because just seeing how because the clips I've seen it's just I'm like it's just interesting to see how they could change it for something or these extended scenes and how they fit in the film if I just watch it in its normal flow, but
There's
but yeah.
also a great documentary with Jackie Birch, who did the casting
Mhm.
for the film and how she got everybody. But like the thing is, she was talking a lot about how when she was making this movie, you know,
Mhm.
it after she made them, like she started becoming the action person, but before she was doing stuff like this, but later she started doing all the Schwarzenegger movies and stuff like Commando and she casts Three Amigos, Die Hard, The Running Man, Roadhouse, Dick Tracy. I'm like, this woman is a perfect casting director. Holy cow. Like,
Yeah, I'm
cast
seeing
some of
stuff
my
in here like was it Psycho 2, DC Cab. God.
Stop or My
I'm
Mom
looking
Will
at,
Shoot.
yeah, her
What a
early ones,
classic.
Cloak and Dagger. Yeah, 16 Candles, obviously.
Well, she did a lot of the John Hughes movies too, yeah.
Yeah,
Breakfast
Smokey and the
Club.
Bandit 3. And she started out with Forbidden World.
Nice.
Yep. So now, well, I guess that's more sci-fi than horror, I guess, but it does have horror. So it's like, I mean, everyone goes back to horror at one point or another.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, she did Fright Night as well. So she had movies going against each other that opening weekend with Fright Night and Weird
she
Science.
wouldn't care. She gets cast she gets paid to cast these things, and then she doesn't have anything to do with the rest of it.
Yeah, because there's
Whatever.
like, I mean, she has like 3, 4, 5 movies a year and stuff
I
like
mean,
that
you have
from
to
a
think
casting
about it. Like,
standpoint.
the casting only takes about maybe a month or two, depending on, how long you have pre-production for. So she probably does like maybe 7 to 8 movies a year, or whatever.
Yeah,
And a lot of those
I
are going
see
to go
three to
against
five.
each other,
Yeah, I see 3 to 5 a year, at least in that time period. But yeah, I think as long as you're not releasing something that has like a center main character, a main actor or actress in it, stuff like that, you don't put their stuff out the same day, probably. But
Probably not, but that's a studio slash, thing, like that's the studio's trying to, you know, I guess, yeah, you might not want to, or a director, if a director does 2 movies in a year, you don't want them to go back to back, but,
yeah, because you don't have conflict there. But
you
so
might, but you might not, because like,
yeah,
it's
it
like,
depends. It could
let the
be.
best person win, you know?
Yeah, and it could be different if it's different genres. If you have a horror movie and a family movie or something like that, you're going to totally different audiences, so it's irrelevant if they're opposite each other, really.
Yeah.
Except for it might take up somebody's time for publicity, but
Yeah, it's so weird to
so
think like we don't really have that much anymore because everybody, if people do it, most of the stuff just goes on streaming whenever they feel like putting it out on streaming.
yeah, yeah. So, well, wrapping this one up, I think we've gone through this. I know we went a little out of sequence here
Oh yeah,
because of some scheduling conflicts, but so Alfred is next, I believe, and
Yep.
we're going back to the one that he was talking about prior to, and I don't know if he gave a clue on that one on the last discussion
I
or
don't think
not.
you
I can't
did.
remember. So that said, I'm going to turn it over to Alfred. Alfred, you want to talk about a quick second or two on what movie we're going to be doing next time?
Sure. Next time we're going to be doing the mid-'80s classic Streets of Fire
Yeah,
with Bray and Diane Lane and Willem Dafoe and just a cast of other people. And
Bill Paxton.
Rick Rostovich. Is he in it? No, I can't remember. It's got
Bill
Rick Ross.
Paxton. Bill Paxton has a small part in it, I
Yeah,
think.
he does. Yes, right. Yeah, that's right.
He's the bartender guy.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bill Pax is sort of the Kevin Bacon of Hollywood Boulevard podcast. Just shows up in everything, all over the place.
But yeah, it's a great movie, and I look forward to talking about it. And I'm hoping I might have another one of my family, my dad. He hopefully will be free to talk about some of the cars in the movie.
That'd be fun.
That'd be interesting too.
So got a big auto presence. So I'm looking forward to talking with you next month.
Yep.
All right.
All
Well,
right,
on
everybody.
that note, I think we're going to hang it up here. And thanks everybody for listening. And any comments, please put on here. Glad to interact with you guys. And thanks for listening. Talk to y'all later.
See you next
Bye.
month. Until then, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
You're listening to the Hollywood Boulevard podcast.